Welcome back. Homeland Security Secretary Christine Darby is in Jerusalem today, paying tribute to two young Israeli embassy staffers killed last week in Washington, D.C.
In the 1960s, the tranquil area of Cannock Chase in Staffordshire became the backdrop to a terrifying series of child abductions and brutal murders.
We start with breaking news tonight. 2 people are dead after a shooting outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C.
3 innocent young girls were taken, their lives violently stolen by a man whose identity was hidden in plain sight.
A man who allegedly opened fire on 2 brothers inside an inner west barber shop is now behind bars. Police say the shooting was supposed to be revenge for the murder of an underworld kingpin days earlier.
As the community lived in fear, the police launched a massive manhunt, but the killer remained elusive. What dark secrets lay beneath the surface? And how did a single mistake finally lead to the capture of this monstrous predator? You won't believe the shocking twists and turns that unfolded in this chilling case. The murders in the 1960s, Cannock Chase in Staffordshire, England, was a peaceful, picturesque area, nothing that would hint at the horrors that were about to unfold. The peaceful surroundings would soon be forever associated with Raymond Leslie Morris, a man who would change the lives of many forever. It all began in December 1964 when a 9-year-old girl, Julie Taylor, was abducted, sexually assaulted, and strangled. Remarkably, she survived the attack, waking up hours later, just in time to be rescued by a passing cyclist. However, this was only the beginning. The following year, 2 young girls, Margaret Reynolds and Tift, vanished without a trace. Their bodies were discovered months later in the chilling depths of Cannock Chase. The local community, once considered safe, was gripped by fear. The murders were brutal, shocking, and horrifying, sparking a manhunt that would go down in history as one of the largest and most intense police searches of the time. These heinous crimes would not only alter the course of the investigation, but also shatter the innocence of an entire generation, changing forever how people viewed safety and trust in their own neighborhoods. The hunt, the search for the Cannock Chase murderer, intensified as the community was struck by the horror of 3 young girls being brutally murdered. Police launched one of the largest manhunts in British history, but the trail grew colder with each passing day. The community lived in fear, knowing that the killer could be anyone, a predator hiding in plain sight. The police initially had few clues to go on. Julie Taylor's attacker had used the ruse of Uncle Len to lure her into his car, but the witnesses' vague descriptions of the vehicle led the investigation nowhere. A year later, as Margaret Reynolds and Tift disappeared, the police were now dealing with 2 more missing children and a mounting sense of urgency. Investigators began to see a pattern, connecting the abductions to Cannock Chase and its remote areas. Despite a massive police presence with house-to-house searches and over 25,000 people questioned, the killer remained elusive. The case seemed unsolvable. Yet, small clues began to surface, detailed descriptions of the car used in the abductions and sightings of a suspicious man near the crime scenes. Still, these fragments were not enough to close the case. The hunt continued, and the pressure on the police mounted. Would they be able to catch the killer before another child was abducted? Time was running out. Witnesses played a crucial role in the investigation, offering pieces of the puzzle that slowly began to form a picture of the elusive killer. One key witness was a cyclist who had heard Julie Taylor's cries in the pouring rain after she had been left for dead. His intervention had saved her life, but the police had little to go on. Julie had described her attacker as a man who introduced himself as Uncle Len, but the details were sparse. In the cases of Margaret Reynolds and Tift, the community rallied together, hoping for any clues that might lead to their whereabouts. The police had interviewed thousands of people, but no substantial leads surfaced. It wasn't until a local man came forward with crucial information about his brother, Raymond Morris, that the investigation gained a new direction. Morris's brother reported his siblings' troubling sexual tendencies and suggested that he might be the person the police were looking for. However, at this point, there was no solid evidence linking Morris to the abductions. The witness accounts and the strange coincidences surrounding his car sightings weren't enough to charge him. The police had to rely on more information, which eventually led them to focus on Morris as a prime suspect in the case. The arrest, after years of investigation and countless dead ends, the breakthrough came in 1968 when Raymond Morris's name resurfaced as a key suspect in the Cannock Chase murders. His name had been mentioned earlier, but it was only after a crucial error during his initial interview that the police were able to connect the dots. Raymond Morris had been interviewed and cleared after providing an alibi, but a mistake in recording his interview, filed under his brother's name, meant his potential involvement had not been properly investigated. By now, Morris had become increasingly careless. A failed abduction attempt in November 1968 gave the police a vital clue. A young girl had escaped his grasp after he tried to abduct her under the pretense of giving her fireworks. A witness to the scene had provided a detailed description of the car and the man, linking him back to Raymond Morris's vehicle. The police, now certain they were closing in on their suspect, began to secretly follow Morris's movements. They meticulously planned his arrest, ensuring they would catch him at the right moment for maximum psychological impact. On the morning of November 15, 1968, Morris was arrested. As he was taken into custody, he reportedly said, "Oh God, is it the wife?" A statement that later became an important piece of evidence in his trial. With Morris in custody, the police began to uncover chilling evidence that further confirmed his role in the murders. Photographs found at his home, showing a young girl in poses eerily similar to those of the murdered victims, sealed his fate. Morris was finally arrested for the murders of Christine Darby and the attempted abduction of 2 other girls, but the investigation into the murders of Margaret Reynolds and Tift remained unresolved due to lack of evidence. The long wait for justice was finally over, but the horror of his crimes would forever haunt the victims' families and the community. Aftermath: the arrest and subsequent conviction of Raymond Morris brought a sense of relief to the traumatized community, but the scars left by the Cannock Chase murders would never fade. The families of the victims, though relieved that the killer was finally behind bars, were left to cope with the unimaginable loss of their young children. For them, no justice could ever truly replace the innocence that had been taken from them. Morris's trial in 1969 was a public spectacle, with chilling details about his crimes emerging during the proceedings. He was convicted of the murder of Christine Darby and the attempted abduction of 2 other children, but the police never had enough evidence to charge him for the murders of Margaret Reynolds and Tift, leaving these cases officially unsolved. Even so, the evidence suggested that Morris was responsible for all 3 murders, and many believe that he was the perpetrator. The impact of these murders on society was profound. The cases led to widespread fear and a shift in how children were allowed to play outside. The idea of stranger danger became ingrained in public consciousness, and parents became more protective of their children. Public spaces that were once safe for children to play in were now seen as potential sites of danger. The Cannock Chase murders marked the end of an era of innocence, altering the way children interacted with their world forever. Raymond Morris's life behind bars continued as he spent over 40 years incarcerated, never admitting guilt for the murders he committed. His appeal for a retrial in 2010 was rejected, and he remains in prison to this day. His case serves as a grim reminder of the evil that can lurk in unsuspecting places, and the importance of vigilance in protecting the most vulnerable members of society. If this story left you shaken, make sure to hit the subscribe button to stay updated on more chilling true crime cases. Do you think Raymond Morris was truly guilty of all 3 murders, or was there something more sinister at play? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't miss our next video, the Cardiff 3, a miscarriage of justice still haunting Wales, coming soon! Trust me, you won't want to miss it.